Today's talk is going to be quite different from what it has been so far. I'm just going to talk loosely, freely about the paper, the washi that I have here in my studio. I have a lot. I have a large selection of Japanese made and some foreign made also. I keep a lot of washi here in the studio, and I use it mostly for how thin it is or how thick, and also whether it's white or off-white or a cream of some kind. Depends on what I'm putting on the paper, which is, of course, for me, the ultimate purpose, the ultimate goal is to somewhat, put this subject on this paper. I'll show you some of the paper that I have here, and explain very little about it because I can't explain everything. This paper is handmade. It's about a middle thickness, a little thick, but not like some of the paper I'm going to show you. And no, it's not a smooth, almost a machine-made paper. It's not that smooth. It has a rough sort of a texture to the surface. But this is not a big problem because if I'm interested in having the texture of the paper come through, then this would be one of the first choices that I would pick. And it's a paper that's fairly easy to print, and almost all of the paper that I have has been covered on one side or sometimes on both sides with a invisible chemical cover that closes the surface of the washi completely or almost completely. That makes the print sharper. And if you want something that's soft, you print that color first, and then after you're printing that color, then you cover the washi, and it closes the surface completely, and then you can put on the next colors that you want to be very sharp, maybe black or something like that. I don't know what it is, but this is called Kurudani, and that's an area that's here in Kyoto, and I'm not sure if it's made here, but it's for sale. It's purchased here, and it's rather good paper, and it's not that expensive at all. The second sample would be this one. And this is a thinner paper, a little bit bigger, and more smooth. The surface is more close together, so probably when I got it, it was already previously with dosa. That means that the surface was closed tightly, so that the lines will be very sharp. There'll be no gentleness, no softness. This is a Kabanoi paper, which is about the same size as this. However, it must be about 3 times thicker than this paper here. It's a good paper. I like a thick paper myself. There are some papers that I'm going to show you which are even more thick than this, which are, of course, far more difficult to print. Then you need the metal ball bearing to get the pigment up through the paper from the board, and you can do that. But printing on thick paper like this, you might want to print twice if you want that paper to have a really rich look to it. If you print this just once, it won't be that flat, nicely flat paper. It'll be slightly, or if you print it only once, it'll just be, you can say messy or broken up. This one is another one, but this is a paper, and it's handmade, but it's really thin. It's almost like a tissue paper, although it's not. And it can't be used that way, but it can be printed. However, like with thick paper, you have to print this super thin paper really careful. you have to make sure that the pigment that you're using is a little on the thick side. If it's thin, then it runs all over, even if the paper has been fixed, the chemical, and the pigment will run all over. So you do have to be careful. If you know that, you can do it. You can print the paper that way, and it's not losing anything. But you have to do it very, very carefully. And a large print like this, is sort of the large sheet of paper that goes to this point, is a real challenge to print. You have to know how to print washi. You can't take this first and get anything with it that's worthwhile. It's too much of a challenge. Although that challenge is learnable and doable, and if you print that well, that long, you will get a lovely print, a woodblock print on a very almost super thin sheet of paper, and you may want that. You may want to do that. This is a Daiichido paper, and it's available here in Kyoto, but practically nobody knows about it because the source of this paper is very small and very limited, and it's run by one woman. So but she's good. She's good, and her paper is very, very fine. She didn't make it; she handles it with the paper makers. She sold this one, a while ago. So in this studio, it's old, but it still is printable because it's never been in the sunlight for sure, or even in the room light. So it's a paper that's fairly easy to print. It's not thick, it's not thin, it's a middle thickness, and that's probably what almost everybody prefers. This is obviously this is a paper that's not white. It's more natural color, but it's been filled with lots of wood grain or wooden pieces of chips and paper and some other things. Intentionally, somebody wants this kind of paper, a paper that has its own things in small sizes, spread fairly evenly through the paper, and whatever image you are going to print on this has to respond intelligently to this kind of paper. It has to be a part of this picture. It has to join that, and it will. Obviously, it will because it's visible. You can't print on this and not know it and not see it. The last paper that I have here on the table is this one, and it says it's 1 meter by 70. Now that might be more or less true, but what I want to say to you is that this is about as big as can be made by hand by one person. Bigger than this, especially if it's deeper like this, then it really is hard. It really is difficult, and you have to be 70 or 75 years old of experience to be able to do this, one sheet after another, one like this, with no losses or maybe a little loss. It depends. But anyway, this is the size. Maybe you can see it. Maybe you can get an idea of what it looks like. And it's good. It's nice. It's good paper. This is also rather thick, so it would be when you make it. Of course, it's all wet and it's heavy, and you have to know just how to make your hands dance correctly. Because if they don't dance correctly, then the paper gets thick on one side or on this side and thin on that side, and you have to. If you delay in doing it, then you have to throw it away, because once it's misformed, that's it. That's the end. You've lost it. But this is a thick version. The good thing about Japan and about washi is that it's made almost everywhere now because of coronavirus, and some of these makers passing away. there are fewer and fewer and fewer of villages and areas where washi is made, but it still is made. And I haven't I don't have any examples of from every place. My life is here in the central part of Japan, and in this area, which is very wide and very big, there were many paper making villages and areas, and now they're less, but some of them are still here. Paper used to be made in narrow, hidden valleys where the paper was made in the flowing river or the stream, even secretly from other paper makers in other parts of the country. This is before I was here, that's for sure, but a long time ago. But now, the secrets are not held. It's not available anymore. There was one man who lives in the countryside, in the fields, next to a river, and all by himself he makes paper, and he sells his paper sheet by sheet. He has loyal, royal customers for his paper, and he does it all by himself, all alone, with no assistance. Just the river and the fibers which come from the plant that he prefers. And I have some of his paper here, but I think I've used it all up already because it's good paper. It's really nice paper. He does a white like this, and then he does an off-white, which is okay. It's all right. For some subjects, for some themes, you don't want to print on white paper. You want to print it on a paper that's more natural color. Next, I'd like to put these aside, and I'd like to show you paper that's made in other countries.